What if I told you that the best fishing spot on the entire lake is the one everyone else ignores on purpose? Today we're talking about abandoning the comfort of the shoreline, the docks, the laydowns, and heading straight out into what looks like a featureless desert in the middle of the lake. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand why that empty water might be holding your next personal best. We'll uncover the main reason why so many anglers stare at a blank fish finder and go home skunked, while the real action is happening right under their boat as they race to the next spot. Think I'm crazy? Let me know in the comments right now. Do you ever intentionally fish in the middle of nowhere? From the first day we pick up a fishing rod, we have it drilled into our heads. Fish relate to structure. It's the gospel of fishing. Find the sunken tree, the rock pile, the weed line, the dock piling, and you'll find the fish. For decades, this has been the foundation of almost every angler's approach. And why not? It makes sense. It gives us a tangible target in a vast body of water. It's easy to see with your eyes or find on a map. The problem is, this becomes a habit, a crutch. We develop tunnel vision, focusing only on the 10% of the lake that has obvious cover, while completely ignoring the other 90%. But the fish, especially the big, wise ones, don't always play by our rules. They have one primary motivation that overrules everything else: food. And very often the food is not on the structure we're so obsessed with. Let's start with what I call the great deception of structure. Picture this. It's a perfect morning, the fog is just lifting off the water. You head straight for that classic main lake point that has always produced. But when you get there, two other boats are already working it over. This is the reality of structure fishing. We've all been conditioned to believe that fish are permanently glued to these specific, easy-to-find locations. We treat them like underwater parking spots, but fish are living, breathing creatures that are constantly on the move, driven by instinct. The idea that a trophy base just sits by the same stump day after day, waiting for you to drop a jig on its head, is one of the biggest fallacies in fishing. That structure is a magnet for fishing pressure, not necessarily for the biggest fish. They may visit it, but they don't live there year-round. Thinking they do is the first mistake. So what exactly is structure? Let's be clear. In the classic sense, structure refers to changes in the lake bed. It's a point, a hump, a channel, a drop-off. Then there's cover, which is the stuff on that structure, like weeds, rocks, or sunken trees. For years, we've been taught to combine the two. Find a tree on a point, and you've found a fish hotel. And yes, this can absolutely work. Fish use these places as ambush points, as resting spots, and as shelter. But we have to ask a more fundamental question. Why are they there in the first place? It's not because they enjoy the scenery. It's because at certain times those locations concentrate bait fish or provide a tactical advantage for feeding. The structure itself isn't the reason, it's just the location where the reason sometimes happens. The key is to stop fishing the location and start fishing the reason. This brings us to the real driver of all fish behavior, the food source. A 5-pound bass doesn't get to be 5 pounds by sitting around and waiting for a meal to swim by. It has to eat, a lot. Its entire existence, its daily movements, and its location in the lake are dictated by the location of its prey. If the main forage in your lake is a species of shad or cisco that roams the open water, then where do you think the biggest predators are going to be? They won't be sitting in 5 feet of water by a dock if the buffet is happening a half-mile offshore in 50 feet of water. They become nomads. They follow the herd. By focusing only on static, physical structure, you are fundamentally ignoring the most important piece of the puzzle. Your fishing memories, while the fish are fishing for their next meal, right now. Now let's talk about that empty water. There's a technical term for it, the pelagic zone. It sounds fancy, but it just means the open water away from the bottom and away from the shore. We see it as a void, a featureless desert. But to the creatures that live there, it is a rich, three-dimensional environment. This zone is a complete ecosystem of its own. It's home to phytoplankton and zooplankton, which are the base of the food chain. These tiny organisms are food for vast schools of roaming baitfish like shad, alewives, or shiners. and where the baitfish go, the predators must follow. This so-called empty basin is not empty at all. It's a hunting ground, it's a pasture. For a large part of the year, it contains more biomass, more life than all the shorelines combined. You just need to know how to see it. The key to this entire open water world is the bait ball phenomenon. Imagine a tightly packed school of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of shad. On your sonar, it can look like a giant, dense cloud, sometimes stretching for 50 or 100 feet. This isn't just a school of bait, it's a mobile restaurant, it's a floating buffet that predators will follow for miles. Big bass, stripers, walleye, they will suspend out in the middle of nowhere, just hanging around these bait balls, waiting for the right moment to strike. They use the bait ball itself as a form of structure. They will push it towards the surface, pin it against an invisible thermal layer, and gorge themselves. If you can find these bait balls, you have found the fish. The challenge is, they are never in the same place twice. They are constantly moving with the wind and currents. So, let's talk about the single most important tool for this entire strategy. It's the piece of equipment that separates the basin masters from the guys who just get lost in the middle of the lake. I'm talking about your electronics. Forget thinking of your fish finder as just a depth gauge. In this open water world, it becomes your eyes, your ears, and your roadmap all in one. Without high-quality sonar, especially side imaging and down imaging, you are fishing completely blind. You might as well just close your eyes and cast randomly. The ability to idle over a massive, seemingly empty flat and paint a picture of what's happening 100 feet to your left and right is a complete game changer. You're not looking for a rock pile anymore. You're hunting for life. It's the difference between wasting a day and finding a school of giants that nobody else even knows exists. Seeing is believing. So what exactly are you looking for on that screen? First, you have to get used to ignoring the bottom. Your focus is now on the water column. You're hunting for those dense, irregular shapes that mark a bait ball. On down imaging, it might look like a fuzzy cloud. On 2D sonar, it's often a big red or yellow mass, but the real magic happens when you see what's around it. You're looking for the telltale arcs or streaks of larger fish, the predators, hanging below or to the sides of the bait. Sometimes you'll see a single, large arc, which could be a true giant. Other times, you'll see multiple smaller arcs indicating a school of active fish. When you see big fish marks mixed in with a bait ball, you stop. You have found the spot. It's not a spot on a map. It's a living, breathing event that you have a short window to capitalize on. This pattern is not a year-round guarantee, so understanding the seasonal shift is crucial. While you can find fish in basins at any time, this strategy really shines during specific periods. The post-spawn is a prime time. After the stress of spawning, bass move offshore to recuperate and feed heavily on roaming baitfish. Then comes the summer heat. As surface temperatures rise, the deep, stable water of the basin becomes a sanctuary, and fish will suspend around the thermocline following bait. But the absolute best time is often late summer and into the fall. As the water begins to cool, baitfish group up into massive schools, and the predators go on a feeding frenzy to fatten up for winter. During these windows, the best fishing on the entire lake is often happening far from any visible shoreline or structure. Let's bust a huge myth right now, the idea that fish always need physical cover. We're taught they need a log or a rock to feel safe. And while they do use it, it's not an absolute requirement. Out in the open basin, they adapt. The cover they use is different. The school of bait itself can act as cover, providing a sense of security in numbers. Deep water is also a form of cover. It shields them from overhead predators like birds and gives them a stable environment. The thermocline, an invisible layer of temperature change, acts like a ceiling or floor that they can relate to. Even the lack of light at depth is a form of cover. Big, mature fish don't need to hide behind a stump like a scared bluegill. They are the apex predators in their world. They are perfectly comfortable being in open water because that's where the food is. Next, let's consider the pressure factor. Think about every community hole on your local lake. Those spots get hit by dozens, if not hundreds, of boats every single week. The fish that live there have seen every lure imaginable. They are educated, spooky, and difficult to catch. Now think about the middle of the basin. Most anglers drive right over it at 40 miles per hour. They don't even slow down. The fish that live out there rarely, if ever, see a lure. They are unpressured. This often makes them more naive and far more aggressive. When you do find them, they are more likely to bite. The biggest fish in any body of water get that way by being smart and avoiding danger. For many of them, the safest place to live, with the most abundant food, is far away from the noisy, crowded shorelines. To succeed out here, you have to change your mindset. You have to think like a wolf, not an opossum. A fish holding tight to a stump is often acting like an opossum. It's waiting in its den for an easy meal to wander by. It's an opportunistic ambush. But the fish in the basin, they are wolves. They are actively hunting. They are a pack roaming the plains, following the herd of bait fish. This means you have to be an active hunter too. You can't just anchor up and wait. You have to be on the move, using your electronics to patrol these vast flats, searching for signs of life. You are looking for a hunt in progress. Your approach needs to be more aggressive and cover more water because your quarry is not sitting still. It's a completely different style of fishing, and it requires a more predatory mindset from the angler. Having the right gear for the job is non-negotiable. This is not the time for your short 7-foot flipping stick. You need tools designed to cover water and handle potentially long fights in open water. Longer rods in the 7-foot, 6-inch to 8-foot range are ideal for making long casts with lures like big swim baits or umbrella rigs. You want to cover as much water as possible with each cast. A high-speed bait casting reel is also a plus for quickly picking up slack. Your lures need to be able to get down to the target depth and imitate the local forage. This could mean deep-diving crankbaits, heavy spoons for vertical jigging, or large, soft plastic swim baits. The goal is to match the hatch and present your bait to fish that could be suspended anywhere from 10 to 50 feet down. Sometimes, casting isn't the best option. This is where the vertical approach comes into play. Imagine you idle over a school of fish and they are stacked up directly beneath your boat, 25 feet down. Making a long cast is inefficient and inaccurate. This is the time for video game fishing. You position your boat directly over the fish you see on your sonar and drop your lure straight down to them. Heavy, compact baits like a jigging spoon or a blade bait are perfect for this. You can watch your lure fall on your graph and see it enter the school of fish. You can see the fish react to it. When one of them shoots up and eats it, your line will go slack or you'll feel a heavy thump. It's an incredibly effective and exciting way to catch suspended fish with precision. Out in the open basin, the wind is your friend. Many anglers run from the wind looking for calm, protected coves. That is a massive mistake when you're fishing open water. The wind creates current even in lakes. This current is a conveyor belt for the entire ecosystem. It pushes the plankton, which is the food for the baitfish. Therefore, the baitfish will almost always be pushed to the downwind side of a large basin or flat. The predators, knowing this, will be right there with them. A windy day can concentrate the bait and trigger a major feeding event, so instead of fighting the wind, use it. Start your search on the windy side of the lake and let the wind drift your boat across the basin. It's nature's trolling motor, and it's pointing you exactly where you need to be. A very common mistake anglers make is searching these areas way too fast. They'll put the boat on plane or idle through at a pretty good clip, their eyes glued to the screen, looking for a dramatic rock pile or a sharp drop-off to jump out at them. But you're not looking for bottom structure anymore, you're looking for life, which can be much more subtle. You need to slow down, drop your trolling motor, and begin a systematic search pattern, like mowing a lawn, at a speed of just 2 to 4 miles per hour. This gives your side imaging and sonar time to paint a clear picture. At higher speeds, you can easily miss a small school of bait or a few big, isolated fish. Patience is the key. You are hunting, not just driving. The search is part of the process, and it has to be done methodically. Let's talk about an invisible ledge that can be the single most important piece of structure in the entire lake, the the thermocline. In the summer, lakes stratify into layers of different temperatures. The thermocline is that thin transition zone between the warm upper layer and the cold, oxygen-poor, deep layer. Fish treat this invisible line like a hard floor or ceiling. They often suspend just above it, where the temperature and oxygen levels are most comfortable for them. Baitfish do the same thing. This creates a superhighway for fish in the middle of the water column. Finding the exact depth of the thermocline on your fish finder, you can often see it as a faint, fuzzy line, is a huge piece of the puzzle. Once you know that depth, you can target your lures to run right in that zone, which is often the most productive water in the entire lake. One of the biggest advantages of fishing the basin is the element of surprise. As we discussed, these fish are unpressured. They aren't conditioned to the sound of trolling motors, the splash of lures, or the sight of boats overhead. Think about a bass on a shallow bed during the spawn, it's on high alert, or a fish on a popular point, it's seen it all. But a fish suspended 40 feet down in the middle of a 200-acre basin? It's in its own world. It is focused on one thing, feeding. When your lure suddenly appears in front of its face, its reaction is often pure instinct. There's no hesitation. This can lead to some of the most violent, aggressive strikes you'll ever experience. You are presenting something new and exciting to a fish that hasn't been bothered all season. The results can be explosive. Let me give you a quick real-life example. I remember one day in late August it was brutally hot and the bite was dead. I had spent 4 hours hitting all my best shoreline spots without a single bite. Out of pure frustration, I just started idling across the main basin, heading back to the ramp. I wasn't even really looking. Then on my screen, a giant cloud appeared. It was a massive school of shad, and below it I saw 5 or 6 beautiful, thick arches. My heart started pounding. I circled back, positioned the boat, and dropped a heavy silver spoon straight down into the chaos. It didn't even hit the bottom. The line just went slack, and I set the hook into a 5-pound largemouth. I spent the next hour catching fish after fish from that one school in the middle of absolutely nowhere. That day changed how I look at a lake forever. Now, it's very important to understand that this is not an either-or game. I am not telling you to sell all your shallow water gear and never fish a laydown again. Structure fishing is, and always will be, a valid and effective way to catch fish at certain times of the year. The point of this is to add another incredibly powerful tool to your arsenal. It's about understanding that the fish have options, and so should you. When the shoreline bite is tough, or when you know the baitfish have moved offshore, you now have a plan B that might be better than everyone else's plan A. The ultimate angler is the one who can adapt, the one who can fish the stump in the morning and hunt the basin in the afternoon. It's about being versatile and letting the fish tell you what they want to do. Ultimately, making this work requires a huge mental shift. It's the hardest part of the entire process. For years, our fishing instincts have been trained to trust our eyes. We see a dock, we see a weed line, and we feel confident casting there. Fishing in the basin forces you to ignore all of that. It forces you to put 100% of your trust in the electronic signals on a screen. It feels strange. It feels wrong at first. It takes discipline to stay out there and search when every fiber of your being is telling you to go back to the bank. But when you finally break that habit, when you idle over that first massive bait ball and see the predators lurking below, a switch flips in your brain. You realize the map you've been using your whole life was missing most of the good parts. The rewards for making this mental leap are truly massive. So, what did we learn today? We learned that the old reliable structure isn't always reliable. We learned that the heart of the lake, that big empty basin, is a dynamic ecosystem full of life, driven by massive schools of roaming baitfish. And most importantly, we learned that the biggest predators will always follow the food. And the biggest twist here is that you've probably been driving over the best spots on the lake for years just to get to those overfished points and weed lines. The fish you're looking for aren't where you think they are. They're where the food is. This changes everything. It means you're no longer limited to the shoreline. It opens up 90% of the lake that most anglers are too scared or too set in their ways to even try. It's the key to finding unpressured, aggressive fish. Thank you so much for watching. If this opened your eyes, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that goes against the grain. Now I want to hear from you. After watching this, are you willing to put down the flipping stick for a day and go hunting in open water? Let me know your game plan in the comments.